Hello, this is Miss Lamb, and now I'm going to talk to you about a book called The House on Mango Street, written by Sandra Cisneros. I like to start the talk about this book with some questions. These questions sort of speak to the underlying themes covered throughout the book, and I think it's a really great starting point getting into the story. So the first question is, are we able to reinvent ourselves, or are we stuck with the life we inherit? Have you ever felt alone, isolated, or hopeful for a better life? And how do you make yourself the person you want to be when you've never known a person who is like that? These are questions that the main character, Esperanza, faces and thinks about as she narrates the course of her life over a time period of about a year. And the translation for the word esperanza in English is hope and expectation. So the main character is 12-year-old Esperanza, a Mexican-American girl living in a poor, racially segregated Latino community in Chicago. The novel does span the time period of about a year in which Esperanza sort of comes into her it's a coming of age type of a story. She matures a lot over the year that she narrates this story, and she writes in vignettes. So vignettes are sort of like snapshots. They're short stories, sometimes poetic, sometimes not. Sometimes the stories are resolved, and sometimes they're just kind of left hanging, because sometimes in life those things happen to us too, right? Sometimes things happen and they don't always necessarily get resolved. So she writes about her friends, her neighbors, the people in her community, and she does a lot of writing about the women in her culture. So in the story, Esperanza ends up moving into a house on Mango Street with her family. While the house is a step up from the one they just moved out of, it still falls short in her eyes. She sees this new house as small and old. She has visions one day of having a better life, and she plans to leave Mango Street for a place of her own. So as the story progresses, she befriends a girl named Sally, who happens to have an abusive father. So this book does cover sensitive issues that people experience regarding domestic abuse. At one point in the novel, there's a little bit of drama over relationships. Sally ends up choosing her boyfriend, which results in leaving Esperanza alone, which then also results in a life-changing incident for Esperanza. This is a coming-of-age book, as I mentioned earlier. It does cover some sensitive topics about abusive relationships, violence, male dominance, and the vicious cycle that females can sometimes fall into when living in conditions of poverty, language barriers, and a lack of education. It's a great book. It's insightful, and it is, I don't want to say easy to read, but the style is different. It's not a novel that you start on one page and work through. Like I said, it's written in short stories and poems, and it's narrated by the main character. So I highly recommend it, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you.